Hello everybody and welcome to another review in Drones Visual. Today we'll be taking a look at a quadcopter that so far is having a very good reception by the public because of its competitive price and awesome looks. I'm talking about Eachine's first FPV Razor, the Eachine Razor 250 that you can see here in front of us. Right away the looks of the Eachine make you fall in love with it. And you also can right away notice how similar the Razor 250 is to the E-Turbine. They're so similar that someone posted a video on YouTube with the E-Turbine Razor and named it Eachine Razor, and nobody noticed that it was a different quad. Anyways, let's continue with the review now, and I will cover what you get with the Arm and Fly version of the Eachine Razor 250. First, we get a balance charger. It seems nice quality, although I haven't tried it yet as I use my iMax. We also get 5-inch props, two colors, black and white, two sets, a 1500 mAh 3S battery that should give you around 10 minutes of flying time, carbon fiber wrench tool to secure the nuts that hold the props in place. Now let's take a look at the front of the Eachine Razor 250, which is very well designed, with what seems to be an aluminum frame that protects the front of the quad and the front camera from impact. The front LED lights seem very resistant to impact as well, as they are protected by a thick layer of glass and are held in place by two metallic structures that look like large hollow screws. I don't like so much although the smiley face are under, but well, I don't think it's a big deal. Then next here we have the 2400 kV motors, which are attached to the 12 amp Simon K ESCs. And then here the socket for the FPV antenna and the Eachine logo that I would actually remove from there because it takes valuable space. Here you can place a Mobius cam or any other cam to record your flight. I myself opted for a Mobius because I think it's ideal for a quad of this type, but you can use other cam if you feel like it's up to you, maybe a GoPro if you want. Then on the rear section we see the LED taillights that has countless red LEDs and the battery plug. Here is a sideways view of the quad so you can sort of gain a better perspective of how it looks like. Now let's disassemble the quad and go over all the components inside. The first thing we need to do is to unscrew the upper plate that I assume is made of carbon fiber, although it can be a carbon fiber laminate, but considering the price of the Eachine, I don't actually care whether it's pure carbon fiber or laminate. For 145 bucks I can't complain. Be careful when removing the upper plate, as between each arm and the plate there are these little carbon fiber mini plates that may act as shock absorbers. If you don't notice, they might end up all over the floor, or you could end up losing one. And here you can see them with more details. They have two holes, well, they actually have three holes, two holes for the screws and then one hole in the center. I'm not sure what that hole in the center for, I guess for, I don't know, beauty. Now we have removed the upper plate, and here you can see the wires that connect to the FPV transmitter. One with the yellow, black and red wires from the front camera, and the other one with the black and red wires from the board, the circuit board. They both connect to the FPV transmitter that has an OSD unit built in, which we will look in more details in a moment. And then of course the front cam that you saw there. Here I'm holding the upper plate with the FPV transmitter attached to it. You can see the two connectors where the wires I was showing you before connect to. Now you can see both, basically the 2-pin and 3-pin connectors with more details, and also the screws that hold the FPV transmitter in place. I hope you get a better view from this angle. Looking at the plate from above, we can see that only two screws hold the transmitter in place, and you might have noticed a little red button popping out. This button allows you to move the voltage, time and channel values displayed on your FPV monitor downwards in case they are too high up in the screen and you want to shift them, or they also allow you to change band or channel. I have now completely detached the FPV transmitter with the built-in OSD unit. And again, you see the two connectors I showed you previously, together with an array of transistors and capacitors. Then the FPV antenna socket that has a sort of a washer around it, made of plastic I guess, and then the red button I was mentioning to you before. Here is the front camera, and let me tell you that you can adjust the angle of the camera depending on how you fly, so that is possible. If we look at the rear section of the camera, we see 3 connectors. One of these connectors has the wires that will connect to the FPV transmitter, so you receive a live video feed on your FPV monitor or FPV goggles. Now we'll connect the camera to the transmitter. I might be spending too much time showing you this, but I know some of you like to see it in detail, so that's why I'm doing that. As I mentioned before, there are 2 3-watt front LEDs that look very nice when it's dim or dark. You can see that from the sockets containing the LEDs, 2 wires emerge that connect directly to the circuit board. These connectors can be unplugged in case you need to replace the wire, the wire of the LEDs, although it might be tricky to remove the actual LEDs from the protective metal sockets. Here's the USB connector of the CC3D board. This connector can be used to plug the board to a computer and do a firmware upgrade or all the necessary settings adjustments and setup, and then there is a place for the battery that I'll show you just right now. The battery that is 1500 milliamps, and here I proceeded just to place the battery so you can see how it fits. Now let me show you a little bit how this looks from above. And now it is visible that the battery comes very close to the USB connector of the CC3D board. Perhaps too close for comfort. I'm not sure if this could cause some issues in a case of a collision. I'm holding now the CC3 board, and many of you have already noticed that there are a few ports missing, among them the Flexi and the main. These are the ACC connector wires that they connect to a plug on the circuit board, and the CC3 controller draws also power from it. Next, let's move here to the right side, and you can see the USB connector that I showed you previously, and you can use it to perform a firmware upgrade or just to set up your board via OpenPilot. And the last connector is for all the channels that will connect to your PWM, PPM transmitter, allowing you to control the flying of the quad in flying modes, etc. Now let's move to the bottom plate of the quadcopter. As I already removed the CC3D board, the bottom plate of the circuit board is exposed. This is the bottom plate with the circuit board, and if we look here, this connector is to switch on or off the light via the transmitter. You can use your transmitter to turn on or off the lights. Then under here there is a switch that allows you to turn the lights on or off by using that switch. So basically you can do it via your transmitter, or just use it here, use the switch here and do the same. On this side you can see the connector from the ACCs that connects directly to the CC3D board. Then to the right there is some other connector. I'm not sure what can be plugged in this connector, but some of you might have an idea. And then here above are the wires that connect to the FPV transmitter, and I guess they give voltage reading from the battery that you will see displayed on your FPV monitor. And then you can see here on the back there is a connector for the LED light. Let me zoom out a bit so you can have a better view. I have come across a few questions asking whether it is possible to use a larger battery on the Eachine Racer 250, and the answer is yes, but you might need to find a clever way to insert the battery or place the battery somewhere else. The main problem with placing larger batteries are the tail lights of the Eachine Racer 250. When trying to insert a larger battery, you will notice that even if you place it at a certain angle, it won't be possible to insert it without detaching the LED lights or removing the upper plate. However, perhaps some of you cleverer than me can find a way around this and make it happen, perhaps placing the battery somewhere else. Who knows? In my case, I'll stick with the stock battery, 1500 milliamps, or batteries of similar size. The arms of the Racer 250 are firmly attached to the bottom plate, and even after removing the upper plate, they still remain firm in place, which is pretty good. Like I'm trying to move them now, but they're really firmly in place. This is the belly of the Razor, and it is protected by a sort of soft plastic foam. Just be careful when landing on sharp objects, as they could pierce or peel it away. So I would rather fly where there is some grass or some sort of sand or something like that. And this is how the plastic foam looks on the rear section, where you can also see the openings to place the straps for hold the battery. And here are the tail light LEDs. Connectors. Basically it is soldered to the circuit board, and then the battery plug. As I mentioned before, these are 15 amp Simon K ESCs, and they come protected by a resistant plastic cover. It would be really nice, although, if they could be inserted deeper into the arms, as they a little bit exposed there, and if you land on a rock or something like that, they could get damaged. But well, I mean, then you have here the bolts that hold the motor in place. Removing the sockets that house the front LEDs might be tricky. I think they're held in place by some mini screws that you can see here at the bottom. I didn't have the proper tool to try to remove them, but if I manage to remove them, I will post some photos. Because right now I don't have the tool. Coming back to the CC3D board, I will now proceed to connect all the channels that go to your transmitter. The wire for each channel has different colors, and many of you are familiar with these colors already. First we have the elevator. This is the only one with 3 cables or wires, being the white wire the one carrying the signal. Then if we continue, we have the blue cable being the aileron. And then we'll find the green cable here, which is the throttle. This yellow cable is the rotor, and I had to make a small red mark on it to differentiate it from the other yellow wire, which is actually auxiliary 1, that I assigned to the gear switch on my transmitter to control the flight modes. And then this one is an auxiliary 2, the auxiliary 2 wire, and then there's another one to control the lights, switching the lights on or off. But that connects directly to the circuit board. I use a Devo RX1202 receiver on the Razor 250, but I don't recommend you to use this transmitter because it's very large and it takes too much space. You should certainly go for something smaller, like the maybe FlySky i6 or your favorite transmitter. Here, for example, is the receiver FlySky i6, and you can see it's way smaller. Let me place both receivers side by side so you can see the difference in terms of size. No question that the i6 is more appropriate for a size 250 or 280 quadcopter. Also, the FlySky transmitter has all the necessary switches and knobs, and is very similar to the Eachine transmitter that will come with the RTF or ready-to-fly version of the Eachine Razor 250. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to connect my receiver. In case you're interested, you can watch, otherwise you can just skip this part and move ahead. First, I will be connecting the elevator channels in my receiver. The signal pin is at the bottom, but in your receiver it might be different, I'm not sure. So now I have connected the elevator channel. Next I will move to the aileron, which is the blue cable. Let me see if I find it somewhere here. Okay, I got it. Blue cable is the aileron. Then followed by the green cable, which is the throttle. Next, let me find the rotor, which, if you remember, I marked with a red dot on the connector. You know, red and rotor, and they both start with R, so I went for red. And like I say, I have to label it red because both the rotor and the auxiliary one are yellow wires, so that can be a little bit confusing. And that's why I had to go ahead and label them. It would be nice if the cables would be actually different, those wires, but well, they have the same color, so you have to figure out which one is which. and then you can connect at the end the auxiliary if you want. I placed the receiver here on top. It's not the ideal spot, I know, but it's just for testing purposes, so it will have to do. As I was telling you all before, I assigned the flight modes to the gear switch on my Devo F12E and the light control to the other switch. Later I configured the 3 flight modes differently in OpenPilot, being the last mode close to insane, so I can barely fly in that mode, but then again you can, just do a different thing. I was just testing. I can then, anytime I want, alternate between these flying modes easily, just by pulling the switch down. You can of course assign the flight modes to any switch you want in your receiver. And then the other switch allows me to turn on or off the lights, and I will show you that now with more details. Let's try the lights now. Up and down turns them on, and I'll try once more now so you can see. Basically we go with the switch up and down, it turns the lights on or off. And this applies also to the rear LED lights, not only to the front ones. And now let me zoom a little bit on the quad to show you how it works. Basically up and down turns them on, and the same turns them off. And as I was saying, it applies also to the rear LED lights, which are in this case red. The same switch turns both front lights and rear lights off. Let's take a look now at the values that the OSD unit displays on our FPV monitors. First we have the battery voltage, here then we have the flying time, and finally we have the channel or the band here on the right side. Let me show you what happens when we press the red button that I showed you before on the OSD unit or FPV transmitter. Pressing it shortly will cause the values displayed on the screen to shift to a lower position until they return to the initial location. After pressing a few times, the value will basically return to its initial position. If we long press the button, then we will sort of switch between channel or band, and what happened now is basically that I lost signal. Now the Eachine Racer 250 comes with 5-inch props, which are actually very thin. I have not tried placing 6-inch props, but I'm a little bit afraid that they might collide with the body of the quad here on the side. But I'll try later and let you know whether it's actually possible. And here, as I was telling you, I like to mount my Mobius. I use a strap to keep it in place. You could although place a different camera there, but the Mobius really looks cool on it. So I went for the Mobius. Let's now place the FPV antenna here at the top. This quad comes with a little mushroom antenna. I'm not sure how it performs, as I took it off during my test flight. Let me tell you, I had no problem with the video transmission, but then of course I was flying on a very close range, so that was no problem. The bolts on all motors are black. It could be nice, I think, to have 2 black and 2 silver to know from which motors they're from. I mean the nuts, not the bolts, and because they can get a little bit mixed up, if you take them off and put it in a box or something like that. Now let's go ahead and place the props. Remember not to get confused when placing the props, as they are supposed to spin in different directions, and you can easily get confused if you aren't paying attention and place them incorrectly. After placing the props, we will use a little carbon fiber wrench tool to secure the nuts and keep the props in place. Really handy to have this tool when you're out there flying and you need to replace props, so keep it with you at all times. Now it's time to go out there for a flight test. I have only gone twice to fly the Eachine Racer 250, mostly due to a lack of time, because the flying area, if I may call it so, is a park. It's a little bit far from where I live, and because, as usually, I only have one single battery. So it is a tiring process to return home, charge the battery, and then go back to fly. Nonetheless, I hope you find this, short flying footage useful, to judge the way the quad flies. I think many of you will love the way this quad flies, and I repeat, it is up to you what settings you use and what settings work out well for you. You can fly very gently and stably, or stable I mean, or you can go crazy and do some insane flips. It will all depend on the settings you're using. In this video I only use mode 1, which is rather gentle, at least I have it configured in that way. It still allows the quad to gather some serious speed if you push it. You can go crazy on the rates and the quad will be very responsive, so even the slightest input from you will have a dramatic effect, but I didn't use that mode. I have that mode assigned to mode 3, flight mode 3, and I did not use it in this video. During the flight test I had a lot of fun, although I felt I need a little bit of a minor adjustment to the yaw to get the best experience. It can take some testing to get the settings that work best for each person, but the default settings were enough for a nice flying time actually. Now I will leave you to enjoy this short flying session, and please, if you found my video useful or you think I made some mistakes in my description or my review, please leave me some comments below. I really appreciate them because they help me improve and make better reviews, and I think we all benefit from that. If you want to see more reviews like this one or get some news about the latest quads or drones coming from China, don't hesitate and subscribe to my channel. Thanks a lot for watching, thanks for your patience, and I hope to see you on my next video or review.